What are we doing? What are we doing here, Nintendo? Look, E3 season is quickly coming upon us. You're doing good this year. You've recorded record sales for the Nintendo Switch. You have a high output of Nintendo Switches coming out this year. People are excited about the system. And then last night, you just managed to make a bunch of people really confused or really mad with two announcements completely out of nowhere that just don't make sense. They make you question everything in life. Why did my girlfriend leave me? Why did my dog take a dump on the middle of the carpet when I just took him outside? Some of these questions in life just can't be answered, and we're getting to a point where Nintendo does things where you just have to sit back and look at the situation and say, what are you doing? What are you doing? So in today's video, we're going to talk about these two announcements from last night, one of them involving the Nintendo Switch Online service, and one of them involving The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD for the Nintendo Switch. Because on the surface, maybe these announcements look kind of cool, but when you actually dig deeper into it, it just makes you question what Nintendo is actually thinking when they make these sort of announcements. What's up, guys? I'm RGT85. If this is your first time on the channel, welcome. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and be sure to like and share the video. But without any further ado, let's talk about these announcements, man, because I got a lot of things to say about them. So first off, the Nintendo Switch Online service is adequate at best. Like, it works. You get some free games from time to time. Games like Pac-Man 99, of course, Super Mario Bros. 35, Tetris 99. Nice little additions, but one of the things that is always heavily touted is the NES and SNES Online service. Now, when this first came out, it was just NES games that were available to play on your Nintendo Switch, so the library was a bit more limited. So you got some good games sometimes, well, not so much. Games like Solomon's Key and things of that nature. But of course, when you added in the Super Nintendo, now you have a more larger variety of games to choose from because these two systems were very successful. They had a lot of games released for them, both in Japanese and in English. So if you wanted to do some interesting things, you could do it. And over the test of time, there's been good months and bad months, but you would think that leading up to E3, you would try to do something special for the next game announcements. Well, on May 25th, you are getting some new Super Nintendo and some new NES games to the Nintendo Switch Online service, and wow, the dartboard must be out because you're just throwing stuff at the dartboard and then picking your games from this. The first game we learn about is Caveman Ninja, which is also known as Joe and Mac. Now, Joe and Mac 2 is already available on the Nintendo Switch's online service for the Super Nintendo. Not a bad game or anything like that. A standard 2D platformer, nice visuals, a fun game at the end of the day, but nothing really groundbreaking or anything like that, but a decent complementary game, and that's a term I'll be using throughout this video. Next up, we have Super Baseball Simulator 1000, which, once again, a decent complimentary game. I've actually had a couple people like Nate the Hate and Spawn Wave tell me, oh, you know, that's a good game. That's a fun game. You know, it's not a bad game. Okay, maybe it's not a bad game, but it ain't Griffey. It ain't Griffey on the Super Nintendo. Look, let's be realistic here. When we're talking about baseball games on the Super Nintendo, the Ken Griffey games, whether you're talking about the first game or the second game, are the pinnacle of baseball games on the Super Nintendo. Arguably the pinnacle of baseball games on 16-bit platforms. A perfect blend of arcade and simulation. And you might be saying to yourself, well, RGT, there's licensing issues. You always talk about licensing issues. Why would you gloss over that? I'm not. Look at Tecmo Bowl on the NES, which is available on the Nintendo Switch's online service. They just took out the player names and everything was okay. When it comes to the Ken Griffey games, the only player in the game that's actually real is Ken Griffey himself. So you take his lovely picture out of the intro, you change the name to, I don't know, Nintendo Baseball or something like that, you know, a simple PNG project that would take you 5 seconds to make up, and then you change Ken Griffey's name to Ben Stiffy in the actual game, and no problem. Now you have the best baseball game on the Super Nintendo available on the Nintendo Switch Online service. But no, instead we got Super Baseball Simulator 1000, which, like I said, not a bad game, but more of a complimentary game. Then we also have Magical Drop 2, a puzzle game, and you know, puzzle games, if you like puzzle games, I mean, there you go. You got Spanky's Quest. I guess I don't know anything about Spanky's Quest. I do like the name Spanky. That's kind of a funny name. Once again, could be a decent complimentary game. And then over on the NES, we have a Famicom title, Ninja Jaja Maro-kun, because, you know, when I always look at, you know, Famicom import list of games that I need to pick up, that game is always at the top of the list. Now, once again, I'm not saying all of these games are necessarily bad or anything like that, but when you look at this list of titles, they're all complementary games. And what do I mean by that? These are games that would complement a big release. I'm not talking about something like Earthbound necessarily, or Super Mario RPG, or any of the Final Fantasy games like that, but like like when you look at the Super Nintendo, it was very popular because of the JRPG. So if you threw one big JRPG in there and then had these games surrounding it, I think people would be a lot more relaxed with this and be a lot more interested in this. Look, you're trying to expand your Nintendo Switch Online service. You're trying to get more people involved and more people paying for your online service, not even taking into account what companies like Xbox and PlayStation are doing with their free games, because that's a topic for a whole nother day. But when you're looking at adding in NES and Super Nintendo games, you need one banger, and then you complement those bangers with complementary games. There is no banger on this list, and that's something that is just very disappointing. You're only getting games like every 2 months or so now. Obviously, you're trying to extend this, but how long are you going to extend it? I've seen some people on Twitter say like, oh, well, Earthbound came out on the Wii U. Where were you during that? I don't know. Maybe I bought Earthbound on the Wii U, okay? And you know what? I can't bring that version of the game over to my Nintendo Switch, unlike if I purchased a game on the PlayStation 4 and I could download it on my PlayStation 5 or on my Xbox One and bring it over to my Xbox Series X, because the architecture is a different thing. So because of that, that totally negates this point. It's just bizarre to me. The games that they release are just bizarre to me, and I'm sure there are people that are going to like it, but at the end of the day, I'm not a blind fanboy for Nintendo. I'm not a blind fanboy for any company. I will always call out injustices and things I think are strange, especially considering the fact that I own 12 shares of Nintendo stock, thus making me a stockholder, part owner of Nintendo, and I need to air my grievances. But the next thing is just, it's honestly disgusting. And if any other company did this, if any other company, EA, Activision, Sony, Xbox, if anyone else did this, there would be riots happening on the video game Twitter sphere. And the fact that some people are downplaying this is just, you have to say, you know, you are a blind fanboy, because this is absolutely ridiculous. The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD is of course coming out in the month of July. Now, Nintendo used to release Amiibo alongside of new games. They've kind of cooled off on that, but last night they announced that a new Amiibo would be coming out alongside of this game. It'll actually be launching on July 16th, and it involves Zelda and the Loftwing Amiibo, 2-in-1 basically as far as the design is concerned. Now, it's a gorgeous looking Amiibo, especially if you're a fan of Skyward Sword, but right off the bat, there were some interesting things brought up about this, because, well, this is a $25 Amiibo, and I know I'm not an Amiibo collector or anything like that, but last time I checked, Amiibo were like half that price. Now, I understand that there are 2 characters on one little Amiibo plate here, but still, why am I having to pay nearly double for the fact that there's 2 Amiibo on here, and it's just really one Amiibo at the end of the day, just combined into one thing? But I could look past that, because obviously Amiibos are something that people like to collect. I have a bunch of Amiibo, you know, from back in the day, just characters that I like, that I never really use or anything like that, because most of the time in games, actually pretty much all the time, they're just a complimentary thing. Maybe they'll give you a new costume. Maybe you can use a certain Zelda Amiibo at a certain point in the game and get a little HP boost or something like that. But this one, no, this one actually has fundamental gameplay issues, a quality of life improvement built into this Amiibo. And when you play The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword, the only way to get this quality of life improvement in the actual game is to have the Amiibo. Now, what is the quality of life improvement? Well, let's just read about it on Nintendo's website. Normally, you can only return from the surface to the sky by way of a designated save point, but using the Zelda and Loftwing Amiibo while on the surface in the game will allow you to return to the skies from anywhere on the surface, even inside dungeons. Use it again in the air to return to where you were in the sky. If you run out of items while exploring the surface, for example, you can quickly return to the bazaar in the Skyloft to replenish your supplies. Once you're done shopping, the Amiibo allows you to quickly zap back to the surface and pick up where you left off. You put essentially a quick travel mechanism behind a paywall, behind a $25 paywall, behind a paywall that, let's be realistic, people are going to buy up this Amiibo and then scalp this Amiibo. This is a basic quality of life improvement for the game. Being able to go into the sky at any point you like is obviously a big deal, instead of having to use designated save points, which aren't really all that frequent in the game. So you're changing the core gameplay, you're adding in a new gameplay element, a quality of life improvement, but hiding it behind a $25 paywall. That would mean, because Skyward Sword HD is a $60 game that now to get this quality of life improvement, you have to pay $85. $85 plus tax, so really like $90. Like this is ridiculous. This is not what Amiibo is meant to be. This is not what Amiibo should be doing. And yes, maybe back in the day I said that Amiibo should have functionality like that, you know, many years ago, adding in an extra incentives, but that was during the Wii U era. You wanted people to buy Nintendo stuff no matter what. You had to force people's hands in order to buy your product so that you did not go under and you didn't just have a colossal failure. With the Nintendo Switch, this is absolutely ridiculous. Obviously, Amiibo are not as prevalent as they used to be. People don't collect Amiibo nearly as much as they used to. You don't release Amiibo all that much outside of things like Super Smash Brothers. And now you're utilizing this Amiibo to have a quality of life improvement in this game that is coming out in the month of July. This is ridiculous. If any other company said, hey, in order to do something basic in the game that actually improves the gameplay of the game, we're going to need you to shell out $25 in DLC. Could you imagine the backlash? Could you imagine the outrage? But because Nintendo does it, people are like, oh, well, you know, at least you get the cool little Amiibo feature. No, this is ridiculous. This is absolutely unacceptable, and this is something that Nintendo needs to be called out on. I am not a blind fanboy. I am a shareholder, 12 shares of Nintendo stock. I am basically the king of Nintendo when it comes to their business. I essentially fund their business, and as a business funder, I find this ridiculous, and it's something that you can't support really, because if you support something like this, what happens in the next Mario game? Oh, you want to do a triple jump? Oh, you better have that Mario Amiibo. Now, obviously, it wouldn't be that extreme, but when you give someone an inch, they take a mile. That's my philosophy in life. And when you give people the option to do something like this, a basic quality of life improvement, to see if they're going to pay $25 for it, this should be in the standard game. There should be tons of quality of life improvements in Skyward Sword HD. There should be tons of new areas to explore in this game, and there's a bunch of mystery leading up to it. I fully believe that we will see new areas added into this game, but now it's like, well, they're going to be locked behind a paywall? Like, what else am I going to have to do with this game? Overall, Nintendo had a bad night last night. Is it the end of the world? Is it doom and gloom? No. I mean, come E3 time, nobody's going to be talking about this because there's going to be new games to talk about for all systems and all platforms. But I'm always going to call out things that I find to be just stupid and I just don't agree with, because I feel at the end of the day that people need to know about these things. People need to think about things sort of outside of the box. Don't give Nintendo a pass because you grew up with Nintendo systems. You have to look at them critically and analytically from a business standpoint. But let me know in the comments section down below if I'm just completely wrong on this and you are completely okay with paying $85 to experience the new Skyward Sword HD experience of being able to have a quality of life improvement. And if you're excited for Spanky's quest because you're a dirty bird. And as always, folks, thank you for checking out this video. If you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Check out other videos on the channel as well. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Later.